On this edition of Fulton Law and Justice, a look at one of the largest seizures of illegal drugs made by the Fulton County Marshals in a decade. And Fulton takes its opioid fight to the courtroom against drug manufacturers. We'll have details on the precedent-setting action. I'm Jolene Butts-Freeman. We'll have that and a look at how one Fulton adoptive couple are doing with their new family on Fulton Law and Justice. Stay with us. Welcome to Fulton Law and Justice, your inside look at the work of Fulton's justice partners. I'm Jolene Butts-Freeman. We begin with the unprecedented move by Fulton officials to take legal action against drug companies in an effort to end the opioid crisis in the county. FGTV's Brian Robeson leads us off.
We're here today to address a very important issue.
During a press conference held inside Assembly Hall, Board of Commissioner members, law enforcement, and health officials and the legal community stood side by side to announce a lawsuit against opioid manufacturers and distributors.
The claim that we have is very simple. These opioid manufacturers and distributors have been flooding our nation with these dangerous drugs for money, for greed. They basically put greed ahead of lives and quality of lives.
With morgues and the medical examiner's office taxed and unprecedented levels of addiction straining the ability of behavioral health to provide treatment, citizens are demanding a greater level of responsibility from companies.
Fulton is forced to spend taxpayer money on rehabilitation and other services in the community, money that can be used to help rebuild infrastructure or be used for other community projects.
In a complaint of damages report that's 258 pages long, just some of the complaints include
violation of State Controlled Substance Act, public nuisance, negligence, fraud, unjust enrichment. All of those are in there, and there's some more.
Even the district attorney's office is overwhelmed. Despite forming a heroin task force last year, 154 people still died as a result of heroin usage. 45% were initially addicted to opioids.
We have to send a signal. We have to get people to understand that this is a serious epidemic. According to the statistics that we have gathered in our office, if we sit around and do nothing at all, 6 years from now, the number, rather than being 154, might reach as many as 1,300.
Despite the unprecedented nature of this lawsuit that won't cost Fulton County taxpayers a dime, Vice Chairman Bob Ellis is confident justice will prevail.
I think it's pretty straightforward when you look at the facts and the fact pattern that's existed, that I feel pretty confident in with the case that's being presented.
Reporting for FGTV, I'm Brian Robinson.
Thank you, Brian. Dr. Jan Gorniak is the Fulton County Chief Medical Examiner and is seeing these statistics firsthand. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Doctor, we just heard in our story from that press conference that your office is being taxed with the number of cases related to opioid deaths. Tell us what you're seeing.
Well, the number of deaths from opioid-related incidents are increasing. So we're probably seeing, at least one case a day that's probably drug-related. We don't know for sure if it's an opioid-related death until we do all the testing. But the numbers are increasing. I mean, you've heard numbers that they've increased 150% over the past, 6-7 years. So we're not only just seeing the heroin, but we're also seeing fentanyls and what we call the fentanyl analogs. So the other forms of synthetic or illegally manufactured fentanyls. And those are the deaths that we're seeing. So sometimes we see it with the heroin, sometimes we're seeing the fentanyls by itself, and sometimes we're seeing the fentanyls with the cocaine. But the increase in the opioid-related deaths are from heroin and the fentanyls, not necessarily those prescription drugs that we used to see in the past.
Now, we often hear about those who have died as a result of this crisis, but I understand you also believe there's a bigger impact as well. Can you tell us about it?
Absolutely. So obviously drugs are not free on the street, and then addiction is a terrible thing. So people actually give up their families for this drug. The addiction is so strong that people will do whatever they have to do to get the drug. So young women, they are selling their bodies, prostitution, the robberies are going to increase. So they give up their family. The drug becomes their family, and whatever they have to do to get it, they're gonna do just that. So communities are breaking down because now the crime in their cities are breaking down. Families are being destroyed. Children have no moms or dads anymore, whether because they're on the street trying to get more drugs, they're locked up in jail because of their drug use, they're locked up in jail because of the crimes that they're committing, and so there's the impact of the families that are left behind.
Doctor, this opioid crisis, it doesn't discriminate, does it?
When we look at the numbers, and of all the deaths that we investigate at the medical examiner's office, the demographic is a white male in the 30s. So you talk about drug deaths or suicides or car crashes, and then same thing with the drugs. But you know that in different demographics that people use different types of drugs. So in the African American community, it is we see more of cocaine related. But now we're starting to see the cocaine and the fentanyl. So the opioids is starting to creep into that demographic. But drugs don't discriminate. It depends on how someone gets addicted to this drug. So you can have the young mom school teacher who is addicted. You can have an 18-year-old hockey player who is addicted because of a injury, a sports injury, and it starts with getting a prescription for opioids, and then the pain doesn't get any better, and they start using, and that's how they get addicted. And so we just have to make sure that our resources are going to the right places and that we're getting answers. So we're looking at the number of deaths. We're looking at it affects everybody, young, old, African American, white, male, female. But what are we going to do besides counting deaths? We have to do more than just count deaths. We have to get people into treatment, and not just those who have the ability to pay.
Now, Dr. Gortniak, you took part in this press conference not only about the lawsuit, but also about the drop boxes. Why is it important to get these boxes in the community?
Oh, it's very important to get the drop boxes out in the community, because when people are prescribed these medications, what do they do with them? So they have a wisdom tooth pulled, or like I said, they have a sprained ankle and the doctor gives them 20 Vicodin or 15 Percocets to help them with their pain. So after 2 days, they don't need that anymore. All they need is extra strength Tylenol or Advil. And so now those unused pills are stuck in their cabinet, and that's just a gateway for a child, a teenager, if we have these pills that are just laying around in our house. Because now the next time I sprain my ankle or I have a backache, I'm like, oh, I have these left over, let me just take these. And unfortunately, that's not the way they should be taken. So these drop boxes gives people an opportunity to safely get rid of the pills that they have at their home. So they're not putting them down the toilet, they're not throwing them in the garbage can, so other people can go through the dumpsters and obtain these pills and start using. So this is a safe way for people to be able to get rid of the pills, and then for the community to, as collectively, get rid of them all together, so they're not ending up on the street to harm anybody else.
And can you tell us your final thoughts?
Sure. The final thought for this opioid crisis, that it is a crisis, and we have to take it seriously. We have to look at it as possibly like a mass fatality casualty, a mass fatality incident. So when you think of mass fatalities, you think of the incident that happened in Vegas, the incident that just happened in Texas, where a lot of people are being killed at firearms. This is the same type of epidemic, the same type of crisis that we need to be prepared for. We're having thousands of people dying, hundreds of people in our own county that are losing their battle with this addiction. So we need to come together as different agencies, as different leaders, and try to combat so we don't have a mass fatality from opioids in our community.
Dr. Jan Gorniak, Fulton's Chief Medical Examiner, thank you for your time and your advocacy on this issue.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to speak about this very important topic, and thank you for having me. My pleasure.
When we come back, what was supposed to be an eviction turns into one of the largest illegal drug seizures in a decade for one Fulton County agency. We'll hear from them when Fulton Law and Justice returns.
evictions, we never know what we will find in those evictions once we get into the residence.
The Fulton County Marshal and his team discover a large cache of illegal drugs during an eviction. And though it's one of the largest drug finds in over a decade in the department, it's not the only thing they found. Antonio Johnson is a marshal. Sir, welcome to Fulton Law and Justice.
Hello, thanks for having me.
So back in October, your troops went to a College Park home to execute an eviction warrant, and what happened instead?
Well, on October the 31st, we executed an eviction at 6470 Split Pine Court, College Park. Upon entrance of the resident, deputies discovered a large amount of marijuana that totaled 12 pounds. Once we took possession of the marijuana, we completed the eviction. We brought it back to our main office to complete a report and make arrangement with GBI for destruction of the marijuana.
And I understand that you all see this as a big win because of the larger implication of these drugs, correct?
Well, it's a victory for us, for the citizens of Fulton County. The troops, deputies went out and executed eviction and discovered this large amount of marijuana, which is a gateway drug to other harsh drugs as of opium, crack, cocaine, anything of that nature. So it's a victory not just for the Marshal's Department, but the Fulton County citizens as a whole.
And Marshal, you mentioned during the press conference about the marijuana seizure that you really never know what you're going to find during these evictions, and therefore you don't think there's anything routine about this process. Tell us more.
I try to take that word routine out because of the fact that on a daily basis we discover weapons, drugs, and a few months ago we even recovered a 3-month-old baby that was left in the home by himself. So routine, no, but we try to make sure that every eviction that we execute is taken with caution, and we don't want it to turn volatile.
And clearly you are pleased with the seizure and with the overall work of your department.
I'm always proud of the deputies of the Fulton County Marshal Department. They are professional, they make sure they look out for one another, and they also try to take care of the citizens of Fulton County because of the fact that we as marshals, we are protecting the citizens, and also we serving them with compassion, respect, but most of all, I want them to go home safe every day.
Absolutely, by all means. Fulton County Marshal Antonio Johnson, good work, and thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
We'll be right back with the People's Clerk. Every year in November, the country turns its attention to the thousands of kids who are in need of what is called a forever home. As part of National Adoption Month, leaders have special ceremonies and campaigns centered around getting foster children and teens connected with families. Fulton's Clerk of Superior Court helps with the county's adoption process, and that is the focus of this edition of the People's Clerk. Here's correspondent Nicholas Cotton.
Hello, I'm Nicholas Cotton, and I have the pleasure of sitting in today on behalf of your Fulton County Clerk of Superior and Magistrate Court, the People's Clerk, Honorable Kathleen Tina Robinson. While the clerk's office takes pride in serving as the official safekeeper of all criminal, civil, real estate, and Board of Equalization records in Fulton County, we also hold a deep passion for the role we play in the adoption process and take great pride in assisting Fulton County citizens build, grow, and extend the love of their families to children in need. As a part of the National Adoption Day observance each year, the clerk's office assists Fulton's juvenile court and families with the adoption filing process. One family that we were pleased to assist, the Majets. We were there with Pamela and Michael when they tripled their family through the adoption process. Mr. and Mrs. Majet, welcome.
Thank
Good
you.
to see you all again.
Thank you.
Now, before we get into how much your lives have changed since we last spoke to you, just give our viewers a brief backstory about yourselves.
We first got our children March 2013. And they came to us for a respite care, just a weekend care, because the foster family that had them, they were going out of town that weekend. So we got them on Friday and they picked them up Sunday. Well, we got a call Monday morning that the foster parents that had had them for a year needed placement because their grandchildren went into DFACS custody and DFACS tried to pair up family first. So they called us to see if we would take the children on foster them on a permanent basis. So we thought about it and agreed that we would. And we had them, we fostered them for 2 years and we adopted them December 2014. And I apologize, we got them 2012. And we adopted them 2014, yes.
Well, I'm the happy daddy with the white hair. I'm probably the oldest father with the youngest kids, the youngest sons, but I'm a proud father.
Okay.
It's been a thrill, it's been a blessing. Not only that we have been a blessing to them, but they have been a blessing to us. And coming from a father's view, my job is definitely busy. My schedule is busy, but I have to do what I have to do to make sure that each one is successful.
Gotcha.
And I'm very appreciative.
Some of the responses were that you all were angels, you all were crazy, and others said you were just ambitious. Tell us about that more when you were going through that process, what you were thinking. 3 boys.
Well, I lost my job after 24 years, and I needed something. So my best friend said, Pam, you should foster, because she had recently started fostering. And I talked with Michael, and he agreed that we would do that, because adoption was out of the question. I had 2 miscarriages, and after that, I wanted to adopt, and he said absolutely no. So I said, okay, Michael, can we foster? He agreed. And she said, get boys. And I said, well, no, I should get girls because girls like to sit and play with dolls. They're quiet. She says, oh, no, she has 3 girls. And she says, oh, no, they talk back. They're sassy. They're, all these negative comments she made. So I got boys. And after I got them, I promise you, she was on my bad list for mom. So because they wouldn't stop running. I mean, boys have so much energy. And even when they were asleep, they were moving, thinking about running. So it was difficult. I must say it's the most challenging, yet most rewarding thing I've done in life.
Now, Mr. Majette, if I recall, you were a bit of an athlete growing up and even in college, right? Was the idea of getting 3 boys your kind of way of getting in touch with the Fountain of Youth a little bit?
It's being an only child myself. My father died at the age of 34. He was very athletic. He played ball in college, and he was a high school basketball coach. So, and my mother played ball, so it's sort of in my DNA. And so I'm just proud to be a father to my sons because there were parts of my life, that was missing. So I'm able to rejoice, and share that with them.
Okay. Well, we know that many families across the nation choose National Adoption Day as the route to take when, going through the adoption process. But there are others who choose a different route. Which route did you all choose?
It was different. Adoption Day, like my wife said, adoption was not in the question for me to even ask. I just did not want to go through the mental drama of, you fall in love and all of a sudden they're gone, and it's like, oh, wow. And I had that fear. I had that fear of that. So we went to court and we told the judge that we'll think about it. And next time we come back, we'll let them know. So, my wife and I went to Applebee's on Cascade, and I said, maybe God will give us a signal. Maybe he'll throw some fire in the front yard and say, keep them or ship them. And lo and behold, the next night, my wife and I was in the kitchen washing dishes and putting them up. And the oldest son, my oldest son, said to us, he said, he has like a little speech impairment, and he was so anxious to get it out. And he said, Mommy and Daddy, do you know that my brothers and I, we're angels sent from God for you and Daddy to take care of us? Wow. It touched me just to think about it. And we had never discussed that with him because we wasn't for sure what direction we would go. But for him to come out of the clear that young to say that was the fire in the yard that I was looking for God to send. And my wife knew then that was our answer.
And Miss Pam,
Yes.
3 young boys, 1 big boy. Please tell us, how do you keep it all together?
I'm so very happy you said 1 big boy, because my wonderful husband has turned into one of my sons. I'm serious. They're all competing for my time, for my energy, and it's very difficult. It really is. And I look to my wonderful girlfriends to help me through it, because they're just so good about giving advice. They all have children, and one of my girlfriends has 3 boys. So she's just a plethora of ideas and solutions for me to use, and I'm very thankful for that resource.
Now that you all have gone through the process, right, and you have these 3 beautiful, beautiful boys, tell us on a personal note, individually, what the adoption process and what acquiring this new addition to your family means to each of you on a personal note.
I'm able to share the goodness I have in my heart with them. And they're very receptive. They're very eager to learn. They're very just anxious about living. And we have, being of our age, we have a lot to give them because we're seniors. We are seniors.
Well,
So he's in denial. But it's very good.
Okay. And what about you, Mr. Michael?
Well, myself, my oldest son asked to have my name. And I mean, he came in one night, I was looking at television, and he just hopped on the bed, and he said, Daddy, can we talk? I said, yeah, sure. And this was prior to the official adoption. And he said, Daddy, can I have your name? I was like, wow. I'm like a child. I put my head in the pillow, I'm just crying, because I just couldn't believe that. And I said, say that again. And he said, I want to have your name. And lo and behold, I didn't know that he was discussing that with his teachers at West Manor Elementary, that he wanted my name. So I said, son, you are welcome to have my name. I said, but the adoption is not completed yet. And he said, yes, it is. And I said, once it's completed, you can have my name. And that just did it. And that was the first part. The second part is to have the other 2 to run and jump on me because they think I'm some big teddy bear, big play toy. So they love to jump and hang around my neck and break my Bluetooth and everything. And I get a thrill out of that. It's a passion. So I'm enjoying each and every moment that I have to share being a father and a husband with my family.
That's wonderful. Yeah. Now, finally, for families that are going through the adoption process or even considering, please share some experienced advice.
I want them to stay encouraged because it is difficult at times. There's a lot of red tape involved, a lot of people in your business, but it's all worth it in the end. Just persevere because there is a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, and that is your children with your last name, and not having to answer to anybody else in their while raising them.
And just having the right mindset. And because whatever that you do, you're being mimicked. They're watching you. So, there have been some things that I had to kind of, tighten up on myself.
Gotcha.
You can't always do or say things that you used to say.
Gotcha.
Not that it was bad, but you have to be careful because I noticed that they mimic us in a lot of areas, so, yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us, both of you.
You're welcome.
It's always a pleasure to be in your presence. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I would like to thank our guests, Michael and Pam Majette, as well as our past adoptive families, for not just joining us and opening up to share their stories, but more importantly, for opening up their hearts and their homes to share the love with adoptive children in need. I think it's safe to say that in today's time, love is one resource that our nation is in desperate need of. Want to know how you can help make National Adoption Day special? Or if you have questions regarding our role in the adoption process or any of the clerk's office many services, we are located at 136 Pryor Street, Atlanta, Georgia 30303, or our 2 Fulton County Service Centers for your convenience. You can also call us at 404-613-5313 or check us out online, www.fultonclerk.org. We take pride in assisting every Fulton County resident in every way that we can because we believe in doing the right thing the right way each time for every customer. I'm Nicholas Cotton. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Nick. We'll be right back.
Do you have an unpaid traffic citation? Well, you're in luck. The Fulton County State Court, along with the Fulton County Solicitor General, is pleased to announce our traffic amnesty program that is now underway until the end of this year.
If you were cited anywhere in Fulton County and have an outstanding traffic citation, you may qualify to have your fine reduced by up to 80%. The Traffic Amnesty Program is for a limited time, so take advantage now to avoid high fines and consequences later.
To see if you qualify for the program, please visit our website at www.fultonstate.org or call our office by dialing 404-613-5085.
Remember, drive safely and travel wisely.
Fulton County has committed itself to serving its residents in 6 priority areas. The strategic goal for Fulton's Justice Partners is making sure that all people are safe. On Fulton Law and Justice, we show you how Fulton's law enforcement and justice partners are doing that every day and how they serve and in the programs they provide to enhance the lives of all people, both young and old. Well, we hope you've enjoyed this edition of Fulton Law and Justice. I'm Jolene Butts Freeman. We'll see you next time.